good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are around the world, whether you're watching this live or you're watching us back later. Apologies, Kathleen and I were just having a bit of a laugh, so we're coming online with a very good mood between us. But I think that's probably going to be the outcome of today's discussion, is that, yeah, Kathleen and I, A, get on very well, which I think you'll get, but B, we challenge each other quite a lot. So my challenge to Kathleen going into this conversation was to introduce herself, who she is, in a way she's never done it before. Because Kathleen's got so many different guises as to who she is, what she does, where she's come from. Now, we first met 2 years ago, roughly, and connected over our stories. So we both come from corporate, we both went through burnout, we both went through various different things on our journeys into entrepreneurship, which is where we both sit now. But we've got really common values. I totally appreciate the input that Kathleen always gives me and challenges me on. We're both change makers because we're trying to create a better world. So I'm going to let Kathleen pull out the bits that she thinks are interesting to share with you. And then we're going to dive into what we're both doing with the Green Vision Summit Expo from there.
Okay, challenge accepted. Thank you so much, Sarah. I really want to start with what I told you. I'm a yoga teacher. Well, this is one part of me. Okay, now serious. I think what could be interesting for everybody who's listening and is interested in the Green Vision Summit and Expo is that I have a background of scientific research communication. I was working for the Fraunhofer Association, the Fraunhofer Gesellschaft in Germany for 13 years. So it's a lot of scientific research and someone has to translate that into everyday life. And I was one of them. I was running the communication office for one of the institutes. And I was also in charge of a center for immersive imaging technologies, which is basically 3D, virtual and augmented reality, and all these media tools that are out there that help storytellers to tell us something about the world that in a really entertaining and emotional way. And I think that's what is needed in so many different parts of our life. But anyways, that's what I did for 13 years. And with that came that I moderate tech conferences, and I got introduced in the media and arts world. And there I gained a lot of interest in, also next to virtual and augmented reality, also in artificial intelligence. And then I really wanted to understand, what can people do what automation and artificial intelligence cannot do? And that's how I ended up being a yoga teacher, because I really wanted to understand what's the neuroscience behind it and what's this philosophy behind it. And down the rabbit hole, I understood that we are all connected, and the only path to make this world a better place is to work with each other and with the world, let's do that later, but that's part of the introduction. I hope that was short enough.
Yeah, now tell us a little bit about Utibu.
Yes, so after COVID, I actually joined in COVID times, I joined a consulting agency where it was all about the human-to-human connection. But after 1.5 years, we actually made a spin-off from that with one of my colleagues there and a long friend from the entertainment industry, Angus Cameron in the UK, from the film market, or from visual effects. We had the idea to use creativity as a tool to foster mental health and help children around the world to develop the so-called future skills, which is collaborative thinking, critical thinking, empathy, using creativity as a tool to come up with new ideas, because creativity at the end of the day is what we need for innovation. And so we created Utibu, which actually came out of community art projects. And there was this, one of our supporter is a book publisher, and they had the idea, why don't you make that a systemic thing, like that you really have a company behind that? And that's what we did. And now it's 2 years and 3 months later, and we have a digital platform where schools can sign up to our creative projects. And I think that's why I also joined Green Vision, not just because I thought I want to work with Sarah, whatever she's doing. She said, hey, I'm doing that. You should be part. I said, okay, I do that. Now, also because Utibo just launched its first eco education, like climate education project. We call that Eco Svalbard. And that aligns beautifully with the Green Vision Summit and Expo. What we're doing there is basically using creativity tools for kids to learn about glaciers melting, permafrost thawing, and habitat loss. And that's our first eco project. And we want to continue this over the next 10 years. So I thought I should launch that and just tell people at the Green Vision about it.
Yeah, I mean, I laugh because every time I speak to Kathleen, I'm like, right, where are you today? Because this is one of her things, is you never quite know where she's going to be or where she's going to be the next day. And it could be, completely different. And one time I text her and say, oh, where are you? I'm watching polar bears. Okay, obviously, that's what you're doing today.
Yes.
So
well, I was trying to watch them. I was searching for them on Svalbard. It's true, yes. Happens.
And by the way, I hadn't realised I'm quite so persuasive as to manage to get you in. So Kathleen's come into Green Vision Summit and Expo. She's working with us to create the programme, and she's taking on the role of MC for Green Vision Summit, which is a super important role because it's obviously how we knit the narrative of what we're trying to do with the summit together. And maybe you give us your ideas, actually, Kathleen, as to why this is so important now.
Why is it so important now? It is some important since a long time, but as the master of ceremony, I have the honor to hold the red thread throughout the 3 days that we are all together there on Malta. And more the question, why do we need a summit and expo like that right now is basically, and that's really where we started with our conversation, that you are part of that. And I was like, hang on. So that is actually an event where it is about action taking, where we show what is already out there, what are the solutions that people already work on and really have success already, and have the first prototypes and so forth, and see where is their pain point. And a lot of times it's implementation. And we go to so many conferences, and you and me talked about it with our other friends, like Susan. We go to many, and it's like, yeah, and you want to take action afterwards. And then a week later, you go into your normal routine back, and yes, you are inspired, but nothing changes because the system doesn't really help you to change. And I think that's why it's important now is the time to, yes, it's great that we go on the streets and Friday for Future and demonstrate, but it's the time to really act, to do something about it, to use our knowledge and what we already developed and implement it. Just do it.
Yeah. And I know you and I are super aligned on this whole point that none of us can do any of this in isolation.
Yeah.
And, it's all about co-creation, collaboration, breaking down the silos between, governments or corporates or, all of us as entrepreneurs, and actually enabling the development of actually the future, a more sustainable future, by bringing people and ideas together. Because it kind of comes back to what you were saying earlier about, AI can't do this for us. It can do a lot, but we need to put actually what we want and who we are as humans into this to be able to create that future that we're all looking for.
Did you see that there was a musician, I think it was will.i.am, talking about AI and how much the world is investing in AI, which I really understand and has to also happen in Germany more. But there's so much put into these technologies that make them more creative, or more like they can give you the beautiful text of the moderation, and they write your speech, an acceptance speech of whatever. They can write whole essays, but we as people boil down to communicating with emojis. So we invest so much into these technologies, but what do we invest in people and their connection and how they actually can act? Because the technology is not acting. You have to make the decision.
I'm chuckling to myself because obviously the reason Kathleen and I kind of, I guess, started creating stuff together and started doing things together was just this. It's a connection of energy. We had a conversation. We both went, quite like her. She's fairly aligned with me. And there's something about that energy when you talk to someone and you feel it and you sense actually we're on the same path here. We're doing different things, but we can actually fundamentally challenge each other, help each other. Because don't we all need that? That's part of, how we build a society as humans.
Yes. So in my last company, we also had a neuroscientist in our team, and I was fascinated by neuroscience since I can't remember, but definitely the latest impulse came when I did my yoga teacher training in January 2019. But we talked a lot about what humans need, and it is the human-to-human connection. You can be happy alone, and you can be happy in your your tiny house in the middle of nowhere in Canada. But at the end of the day, you need connection to other people. And this is something that's why we see people being so lonely when they are isolated, and so lonely when they are just in their social media world. They don't really meet people. And we had that huge spike in mental health issues with COVID, where everybody was isolated. So it is known that people need people since the beginning of time.
No, totally.
That we have to work on.
And also, everyone, I feel at the minute, is craving fun, but craving this feeling of being fulfilled. I know so many people who are coming to me and we're having conversations about actually, how do I contribute? How do I feel like I can actually make change? So this whole, and again, it comes back to human psychology. We can do something for ourselves and it feels okay. If we do something, we know we're contributing to a bigger cause than ourselves. And that actually comes back into what we want to create with the Green Vision, is enabling people to come together, to contribute, to actually amplify one another.
Yeah, I think that you're saying that we want people to learn from each other and see like, oh, hang on. The thing is, you are a coach for leadership, right? So you're telling people what is the best team. How do you structure the best team? What would be your answer on it, Sarah?
What would be my answer? How to structure? You help them be the best form of themselves.
Yeah.
You help them work together and amplify one another's skill sets, because your job as a leader is to maximize and amplify the strengths of yourself and all the people around you.
Exactly. So your strength is different to my strength, although we have a lot in common, but my strength is totally different. And we amplify each other's strength. And we like it's a lost game if I'm trying to work in this team, in a surrounding with other people on my weaknesses. I have to bring in my strength because the others don't have that. And if I'm trying to have the strength of everybody else, I'm just lost because it's too much work. Like better be yourself, and then there are other people who help you to be a better version of yourself, and then everybody has a certain role in the team, right? And then that works. So this is the same out when you talk about collaborations between companies. So my company is specialized working with children and in the creative world. So we need other companies to help us who are maybe more connected to schools, because that's exactly what we need. We need more connection to schools. So I need to work with more teachers. I need to work with more people who can help us to fund those things. I'm not a crowdfunder, but I will find someone. I can't learn that myself. I just don't have the time.
It's interesting because one of the things, and obviously this is part of Women for Climate Tech and Innovation, the not-for-profit that I run, is when we're creating an events, and it's again the same with Green Vision, it's like, what can you contribute and what are your challenges? So not like getting people to show up and actually be okay with saying, this is what I need help with, a bit like you just said, actually this is where I need support and this is where I can offer support. And that's exactly where this kind of, this collaboration comes into, is we are generally not programmed to go and ask others or tell people what's difficult, what we need support with. And yet this is a big part of what we'll be doing with the Green Vision, is actually trying to uncover some of these challenges and create solutions that people can go away and take and put back into the spaces in which they're working. And how people do that will be different in every situation, because they'll all be coming in from, we're bringing people in from Africa, Middle East, Europe. It's that kind of hub. So the actual implementation locally will be very different, although the ideas globally can be very similar.
I like what you did with your green. Say it again. What's the program called that you did, for instance, at Siemens with Impact Hub?
For Women for Climate Tech and Innovation.
Yeah. So when I was there in summer with you this one time when you invited me, what I really liked was that you told people, come with your problems. Yeah. Let's talk about the problems. Because, as you say, we're not programmed to unveil, oh, I have this massive problem, because we are programmed to show up and, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I can do it all myself, but I just need your money. So let's do it together. And then it's like, yeah, no. Apart from the problem that we all have to find money to pay our rent, we have other problems, and we should not shy away from telling people. Because there could be others that can actually help you in an instant. And she's like, yeah, I have your solution. Here you go. So I hope you bring that to the summit when we talk about the action taking.
No, totally. And also recognizing this summit is about moving away from competition, moving towards collaboration.
Yes, please.
But I think you've just kind of hit the nail on the head. Obviously, one of my next questions are going to be, what's it take to be a leader, taking action towards this more sustainable future, everyone, and what are the challenges? But I kind of feel like we in some ways we just covered that. But what do you see? What does it really take to be a leader? What are the kind of 2 or 3 attributes that you put down?
Yeah, I think it comes back to how you and I met. You remember? It's a really funny story, because I wrote the only article I wrote on LinkedIn that I published, and my former colleague Charlotte Wiedemann helped me to write it. Or I wrote it, and then I was like, I can't publish that without you looking over it, because she was a journalist, and I wrote the real reason why I quit my job. And you read it like a year later or something, I don't know, and you reached out to me. And my point is, what I wrote in this article was a lot about the inner the noise around that that makes it hard for you to listen to your gut feeling and to your inner noise, to your inner voice, because the change is always a whisper, and everything around you is so loud, and it's really like it's nagging on you, this whisper that always tells you something is wrong. And I think that made me also. Like at the end of my career at Fraunhofer, it was really hard for me to be the authentic self, because the noises were too loud, and I had to fulfill so many roles, and so many people came to like, you have to do this and this and that, and I couldn't listen and couldn't see what the problems in my teams were. I think that is one of the biggest challenges a lot of leaders have, because of so much workload, and especially leaders in the how do you call it, not the C-suite, but like the middle management, where you try to not push down people who work for you, that you don't bring the pressure that you have from up down to them, but on the other side you have that from up. Yes, you have to be the umbrella. And I always say, don't judge me as long as you don't walk in my shoes, because you don't know what kind of pressure I had from the other direction, right? I think it makes it so hard for leaders to really be their authentic selves, and I think we need more companies who help people to be good leaders, to give them the freedom to also to take on this role. But I know it's really hard today, because we have so many open positions and so less people working. I mean, you see that it's a employees market, and obviously it's hard for a lot of companies to say, of course, focus on being the right leader and don't do any operations. Hard to do. But
it's always got to be a balance. And I mean, what I'm hearing from you is actually something that's super important. You went from I should, like what everyone else's expectations are and what, my expectations are for myself, to actually, I've got to tune into what actually makes me happy, what I actually want to do. And this is obviously an awful lot of what I see of, like you say, middle managers and sometimes very senior managers. They know they want something else, they don't know how to get it. And what we're seeing, or the trends that I'm seeing a bit like you are, is people are potentially leaving less purpose-driven businesses.
Yes. That's not just the generation, that's not just the Y or Z generation who's leaving these jobs, because you more and more hear, and I think we can quote Benedict here, who you interviewed 2 weeks ago. It's really about like the consciousness that raises, that we sometimes talk about it, that we woke up and it's really hard to unsee things that we saw now. When we see how we were programmed. I'm a huge fan of Matrix, as you might hear. So I took another pill to see what is behind the Matrix, and it is actually true. When you reconnect to yourself and to other people, you see that the programming doesn't work anymore, and this noise, which is also business as usual, doesn't work anymore. We have so many challenges, especially with climate change, that BAU doesn't work. So this normal commerce on the streets, everything is available with a click, that is the noise. And this is something, it's challenging to not hear it, but for me, it's an everyday challenge that I structure my day, I meditate, and a lot of people say, yes, I meditate and I do yoga and so forth, but it's really helpful. It's really helpful to listen to your own thoughts once a day, and even if it's just a couple of minutes.
Totally. And actually, it comes back to something I wrote, I think, a couple of years ago, is about, sustainability starts inside each of us, because we have to know what's important to us, to know actually what our role to play is, what our strengths is obviously how we can contribute. But we have to be driven by something that's meaningful to us. And what's meaningful to me is slightly different to what's meaningful for you. And obviously we've got connections. But actually, this is why it's so important that everyone's involved in whatever way they want to be. And you're right, this human consciousness level is rising post-COVID. And, whatever COVID did for us, it has actually increased the human consciousness level, because there was a lot of time with ourselves. And a lot of people had to face that. So,
and everybody is like, oh, what's the purpose of that?
Yeah, exactly. And people are beginning to see the gaps in either businesses, in trust, like, people between what people are saying and what they're doing. This used to be something that was kind of invisible to most people, whereas now I feel it's like you're tuning it in. You can start seeing a lot more clearly. And these are the kind of companies and organizations that people are walking away from and moving into these, into more purpose-driven or focused roles. But I'm going to shift the conversation slightly, because otherwise I know you and I could talk all day, and we can, but maybe not everyone wants to hear us.
We do that after you click the records button again, and then people don't have to listen to us anymore. If they can, they can call us if they want.
There are a lot of us, like you and I, in this, what you might term a bubble. And it is a bit of a bubble, because you and I play off other people that think similarly to us or challenge us. And we're open to being challenged. We're open to being proven wrong. We're open to say, okay, I'm perfectly imperfect, all fine. But there's, this big portion of society that's still struggling or trying to understand actually how this makes the future better. So, how can we engage more people, to come to Malta and join us and take action and be inspired, but also to understand the kind of what they can do?
I think that's, so first of all, on Malta, we want to show what can be done. So we are getting people on stage who come with their use cases, with the stuff that they already did, with solutions. And let's talk about soil, food, and water, how to treat wastewater, how to have sustainable food chain. We have so many other topics, but what I want to mention here is that we give them a voice. so they can talk about the solutions they have, and by that hopefully inspire people to implement a couple of these things in their lives. And to, oh, hang on, if this farmer does that and they already have a contract with one of the big retailers, one of the big supermarkets, then it works. I see myself frozen now. That is not a good sign.
I was just about to say, you're frozen, but you can still hear you. It's fine.
Okay, that's hilarious for a live. I hope that comes back. And I'm not in Svalbard. Oh God, fantastic! Can you cut that later and put my normal stuff in?
No, I'm just going to leave it because it's fun.
Oh man, I hope
technology
this is off. That's hilarious. Leave that on YouTube. I can also come in with my phone. Oopsie.
It's more important that we can hear what you're saying.
I'm happy. It's an interesting face that I make there. Okay. What I want to say is that we should stay open to the other bubbles. And that's a lot. And this is really hard because social media is only showing you this bubble that you are in. And it's really hard to listen to all these others saying like, no, it's not, I can't follow this. The thing is, we unlearned to listen to opinions, to other opinions. And this is something we have to cultivate again. And I hope that we can also do that on Malta at Green Vision, that we maybe foster communication in a different way, that we listen to each other, debate, have a dialogue instead of a discussion. And this is, I think, can be really helpful.
Yeah. I mean, this is part of the aim, isn't it? That we are not just putting people on stage who are going to agree with each other.
Yeah.
You know, we need to also show how we have these kind of difficult conversations where we can disagree, but still disagree with respect for the fact the other person's human and they've also got their own perspective. Because again, we don't want to be amplifying some of the other behaviors that we're seeing in the world. We have to be in a space where we can listen to diverse inputs, because obviously this is what diversity is about. It's not about people all looking and sounding and wanting the same. It's recognizing that everybody's different. Everyone's going to have a different input to have, and that we can actually make that into something, use that as part of the solution rather than make it into a problem.
What I also would like this is one aspect, and the other one is I discussed a lot with people in India, and what I see is this thing about we in our intellectual bubble think that we know everything, and then we go and tell the farmers, you can't do it this way. Here in Europe, we already did this mistake. Who are we to tell them how to do it if we're not farmers, if we're not in their shoes? When I said earlier, don't judge me as long as you didn't walk in my shoes, how can I do the same to others? So in their life situations, you have to meet them on eye level, and you cannot tell others how to run their lives, but you can lead by example. You can just hope that you're planting a seed and make people curious about the way that you are going. That doesn't mean that you tell them this is how you have to do it. My way is my way or the highway. That's not how it's working. That's not how change happens. You just have resistance. It's like when people, when you are vegan and you tell people all the time they have to become vegan, then people resist it.
Yeah.
I'm not telling everybody that I'm a vegetarian. It's just like what it is, and then move on.
This is quite interesting because we keep coming back to this topic of leadership, and obviously that's my space.
I'm trying to fix my camera, but it's
fine. It doesn't want to work. But
can I come in with my phone now, right? For the last minute.
I mean, we talk about generative AI. Now let's talk about generative leadership. I mean, this is the move, the shift that I think we've got to see in the world. And we will be touching on this in the different streams of, that we'll be talking about through Green Vision Summit Expo. We're going to be bringing in these themes of leadership, the themes of technology into each of the subjects rather than have them kind of stand alone, because they're so fundamental to being able to make the changes. Technology is obviously a massive enabler if we can create the right leadership to enable the technology.
Yeah.
But I think you in some ways you've already answered this, but what's the one change that you think would need to happen to enable more people to engage and take action?
I think I will echo Benedict here again. It needs this. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about it earlier, and I said, I wish I could erase greed and selfishness in this world, but this could be erased by us understanding that we are connected to one another, and we need social change, societal change. And it also reminds me, we had last week the call with the other Benedict Böse, the farmer in Germany, who is also one of the speakers. He also said, going into farming and then seeing how it works and trying to be part of a lot of research projects and seeing how can he transform his land into a sustainable or regenerative land. He said that a lot of things are really flawed in the system of farming and food, and the only thing that really can help is a society change, that people demand change, that people are acting differently. You can't wait for the for a implemented system, a really structured and complex system to change. Hey, I'm from Berlin. I'm from East Berlin. I just watched a documentary, Capital to Be, like Who Owns the City, and you see how this city has been through so many transformations and so extreme political problems over the years, and greed and like buying out and so forth is one of the big problems. But one of the biggest solutions is that people stand for that city and for their lives and saying, no, you can't sell my culture. I want to make a difference and I want to live differently. And that's why we have Holzmarkt. That's why we have these people who lead and show that it can be different. But that has to come from people. It has to come from people who come together. And it's just not one person who. But I mean, Greta was one person, and then she had a lot of followers, and that's how it can start. So yeah. Society change.
Again, all talking about collaboration, about co-creation, about bringing people together, which is coming back to what we're planning for Green Vision Summit. But I guess just to close out, maybe can you share with us one leader or initiative that you've seen that we can be highlighting on Green Vision that you want to amplify the impact that they're making in the world, because that's what this is all about.
Yeah, it's really hard as a master of ceremony. I talked to a lot of the speakers that are confirmed, and it's really hard to say one initiative or one that I see out in the world. There's so many inspiring ones, but maybe the one that nobody knows yet. We are bringing on the stage one startup, Haldara Farms, and I mentioned India. The co-founder is Asta Gupta. She is a young Indian who studied law and she has an MBA. She studied in the UK and then got back to India. She's living in Noida, which is like, it's like Potsdam of Berlin. Noida is outside of Delhi. And still a gigantic city and part of this surrounding of the capital city, which is unbelievable big and polluted. She has with her team a couple of farms that they either rent or buy the property, and they grow something called the giant king grass. And she did a lot of research over the last couple of years how this is a grass, a perennial that helps degenerated soil over a period of 8 years, nourishing the soil. But this grass is also very, very fertile and it has a huge nutrition factor for cows. And how I have been to one of the farms, and I think it's unbelievable what she's doing there. And she has an answer to every question I have. And she would use those grass as a feed. Then the dung from the cows is used to build houses. Then they get the street cows off the street and feed them with that. And it's insane how the whole system there works together. And then I ask her about the wastewater, and she's saying, yeah, and then we also have something in place where we help the farmers, and there's a huge movement behind that. And what I'm saying is, she is just a new farmer coming from a city and talking with other farmers who are saying, that's that young girl. And especially in India, who was listening to her. She has to come with her brother and other friends and co-founders, male, who listen to them. But she's always the one who's answering. Funny enough, they always ask the men, but saying that it takes them a long time for other farmers to listen to them, and they have to show results. But they do now. They show the first results, and I'm happy that we bring them to Malta to talk about the solution that they are now implementing in a couple of different places around India. And India is so gigantic, and 70% of the land that is owned by the government is degraded. 70%.
That's mad.
I learned so much from her, and I think that's something we have to bring to the stage and give her a voice and see what else can be done. And there's so many others, but it's one example.
Yeah, I think we could talk about all the examples of the people we've met and the people we're bringing to Malta. For probably another hour or so. But I think suffice to say that we've got some amazing people coming with amazing ideas, varied ideas, because that's what's going to create the change, the diversity, the differences in opinions, differences in perspectives, and also from the different parts of the world. What works in one place won't work in another, but you can still learn from it.
Yes, exactly.
I do think that this is kind of the heart of what Green Vision stands for me, is bringing us all together and helping this collaboration and co-creation of solutions that we can take back and implement in different ways in our lives, in our communities, in our businesses, to help create that change.
You just put in one sentence everything that is really important about this conference.
And it's going to help because I can see Sabrina's writing in the comments too. So,
good. She's writing. Why is it looking so weird?
Yes, so please do come and join us in Malta. We'll put the link, or I think the link's already gone into the chat, where you can buy tickets. Come join us, come be inspired, come be a part of what we're creating. You'll see Kathleen all the time on stage. I'll be moderating some of it. I'm doing some workshops in the background. You've met Benedict already, you've met Sabrina already, and you'll be meeting some more of the amazing team and some of the speakers as we lead up to the summit at the end of April.
Let me add something.
I was going to say, what do you want to add? I'm pretty sure I'm not going to get the last word on this.
Actually, I wanted to ask you something, but now I leave it because it's way too late. But no, I wanted to add, look, we have opening keynote Mark Buckley. We have who wrote the manifesto for the UN SDGs. We have closing keynote by Elizabeth Battuti, a African activist. We have so many interesting people, but we have these action-taking sessions where we sum up things and ask the audience, what are your biggest problems, or what is the takeaway message that you have here? What is the next thing you want to work on? And we have a graphic recorder. So my sidekick as the MC, that's super cool. I worked with him earlier before COVID. So we have this graphic recording there, basically helping us to sum up things, but also to visualize thoughts. And I think this is also one of the unique things about this summit, about this event, is that we also integrate creativity and emotionalize what we're talking about, so that people can really take how do we want to call that? I'm pretty sure you know what I mean. That they take ownership. It is really about saying, look, I know I can help to change this world, so let's do it together.
And on that note, we'll leave you. Have a lovely evening, everybody. Take care for now.
Bye. And on stage, I'm not frozen.